On the cold, restless deck of the yacht, I locked eyes with him, my rival's ex-husband, our forbidden tension sparking against the backdrop of a business betrayal that threatened to shatter everything I'd ever known. My heart pounded with the raw fury of a lifetime manipulated by family deceit. In that breathless moment, as the ocean's roar merged with our silent accusations, he whispered a secret that shattered my reality and ignited burning questions I could no longer ignore. Chapter 1. The Grand Ball of Secrets. Evelyn entered the monumental ballroom with a blend of apprehension and defiance, her eyes reflecting the glitter of chandeliers and the turmoil within. The gala was meant to solidify her family's influence, yet each step reminded her of their strained dynamics. The ballroom's opulence contrasted with Evelyn's awareness of hidden agendas beneath the polished facade. As guests toasted to prosperity, an unexpected relative interrupted the revelry, revealing long-concealed debts and clandestine alliances. The celebration turned sinister, threatening the family's reputation and Evelyn's understanding of her world. The revelations felt like a physical blow, unveiling a legacy of deceit behind every polished smile. Amidst the chaos, Evelyn's gaze met that of a man leaning against a column, a rival's ex-husband with whom she shared a complicated history. His presence was magnetic, acknowledging her pain and challenging her to see beyond the chaos. Their exchange in a quiet alcove was charged, his words a mix of cynicism and empathy. "The facade of perfection is crumbling," he noted. Evelyn's retort, though sharp, carried a newfound determination. "If not for these secrets, we might never know who we truly are." As whispers of scandal spread, Evelyn felt a transformation begin. The ballroom, a blend of elegance and grim truth, became a crucible reshaping her identity. Her encounter with the rival's ex-husband opened a door to both danger and potential redemption. As the waltz ended, Evelyn realized this was just the beginning of a reckoning. The revelations threatened to redefine her sense of self. Despite the risks, she stepped toward the man who symbolized both turmoil and a beacon of salvation. The ball had become a gathering of secrets, and Evelyn was determined to reclaim her narrative from the shadows of betrayal. As the night deepened, so did her resolve to understand her worth amidst the remnants of shattered illusions. Nothing would ever be the same again. Chapter 2. Whispers of Betrayal. The day began cloaked in an unsettling quiet, as if the building itself knew that nothing would be the same. I sat in my office, the familiar hum of computers and murmurs of colleagues, now replaced by an oppressive silence in my heart. A single email, its subject line neither dramatic nor foreboding, had shattered the fragile trust I'd placed in my business partner, someone who I had once believed shared my vision. The betrayal, detailed in concise, cold words, confirmed my worst suspicions. The very foundation of our partnership had been undermined, and the treacherous act was executed with an efficiency that stung like the lash of old family ghosts. Every word of the message resonated with the echo of manipulations that had long defined my family's legacy, a legacy infamous for its cunning and deceit. With each sentence, my anger swelled, not only at the betrayal itself, but at the inescapable ties to a past in which control and power had been wrenched from innocent hands. It felt as if I was living within a repeating cycle of broken promises and secret pacts, a cycle I was desperate to break free from. I closed the email quickly, my hands trembling as I reached for a glass of water. The betrayal was more than a business misstep. It was a personal wound that cut deep into the heart of who I was. My mind raced with memories of past manipulations, echoing from my childhood, when whispers behind closed doors skewed the once considered honor of my family into something unrecognizable. That day, the voices of my ancestors seemed to murmur in every detail of the treachery, urging me to reclaim my power. Unbidden, I thought of him, the one who had unexpectedly entered my life, and, despite his complicated past as the rival's ex-husband, had become an anchor in these turbulent times. His presence had been a soothing balm amidst the chaos, and in our shared moments, I found an understanding that went beyond the mere exchange of words. It was later in the afternoon, when the heady tension of the day was at its peak, that I found him waiting on the edge of the boardroom's polished mahogany table. The conversation did not begin with grand declarations or dramatic confrontations. Instead, it was marked by understated vulnerability. His eyes, a mix of regret and longing, met mine, and in that glance, I saw the mirrored pain of betrayal and loss, an emotion I had fought so hard to subdue. "I never expected this from anyone," he admitted, his voice soft against the hard edges of the unfolding conversation. He was unequivocally honest, a trait that had drawn me to him, even when circumstances would have made it easier to look away. I leaned forward, yearning for clarity, for some reason that could merge my shattered reality with a newfound hope. His confession, tentative yet sincere, acknowledged similar manipulations not only within his own circles, but by those who had once claimed loyalty. It was his quiet admission that stoked the remnants of a flame I thought had long been extinguished. In the dim light of the fading day, as the office settled into hushed shadows, every word conveyed more than the mere facts of betrayal. It was a sharing of pain, of shell-shocked hearts that had both lost battles against family legacies, born of manipulation and deceit. The air between us, charged with our shared history of conflict and hope, gradually softened from hostile to intimate. We stood aside from the prying eyes of colleagues, disappearing into a secluded corridor that served as a silent sanctuary for our private conversation. Here, away from the corporate battleground and the oppressive weight of my family's name, we allowed our true selves to emerge, unburdened and raw. His touch, cautious yet earnest, brushed against mine, a fleeting caress that spoke of forgiveness and love. For a brief, suspended moment, the world around us fell away, leaving only the heat of our emotions and the undeniable pull of mutual longing. It was in this stolen sanctuary that the barriers between conflicting loyalties began to crumble. His hand reached for mine, trembling yet resolute, as he leaned in closer. Our breaths mingled in the quiet corridor, our hearts synchronizing in the echo of unspoken truths. In a secret brief kiss, a delicate melding of lips that promised both danger and desire, I tasted both the bitterness of betrayal and the sweet possibility of redemption. That kiss, as light as a whisper yet heavy with the weight of our histories, complicated everything. It was an acknowledgement that our paths, though fraught with peril and divided loyalties, had coalesced in a singular moment of vulnerability. The consequences of that kiss lingered like a charged current between us, a constant reminder of the forbidden allure of our connection. I was painfully aware that every tender touch, every shared secret, risked entangling me further in a web of emotional and professional turmoil. But the intensity of what I felt for him was as powerful as it was dangerous. In his eyes, I saw the silent battles waged against his own internal demons, the burden of a legacy he never fully embraced, and the hope for something pure, a future untainted by the corrosive grip of past sins. Our conversation continued in murmured confidences, each of us offering a piece of our truth to the other, as if by sharing our scars we could forge a new path forward. I confessed my growing anger, not just at the betrayal that threatened everything I had diligently built, but also at the long-held belief that my family's manipulative legacy was destined to define my future. His words, patient and caring, reminded me that while the past cast long shadows, the present offered opportunities for change. And in his gentle prodding, I recognized an undeniable strength, a steadfastness that even my pain could not dim. When we finally pulled away, the lingering taste of that kiss remained, mingling with the bittersweet realization that every shared glimpse of intimacy further complicated our fraught lives. Despite knowing that our newfound bond could jeopardize my professional standing and entangle me in even deeper emotional strife, I could not bring myself to regret it. The taste of betrayal might be bitter, but the possibility of love, of rebuilding a life founded on honesty rather than deceit, was an intoxicating promise that drove me to risk everything. As the evening crept in and the corridors of the building grew emptier, I stood by the window, reflecting on the tumultuous events of the day. The text on my screen had faded into memory, replaced by the tangible warmth of our secret encounter and the shock of uncovering treachery at the core of my business empire. I knew that the battle was far from over, the betrayal had cut deep, and the path ahead was littered with uncertainty and lingering conflicts. Yet, in that moment of secluded intimacy, the darkness had seemed a little less oppressive. With him by my side, even if only in fleeting moments of shared confession and tender, dangerous kisses, I found the strength to face the coming storm. The whispers of betrayal had not only revealed the rot within the walls of power and legacy, they had also pulled back the curtain on a different kind of truth, the truth of a human heart that, battered and bruised, still yearned for love and redemption. In our shared silence, a fragile hope began to unfurl, promising that even amidst the chaos and the ghostly echoes of the past, a future built on genuine connection and trust could one day emerge. Chapter 3. Turbulence on the Private Yacht. The private yacht sliced through the restless waves, as if challenging the ocean itself. Far from the bustling city lights and the reassuring clamor of shore, the vessel became a stage for unveiling hidden truths. In the gentle rocking of the yacht, every whispered secret, every unspoken regret, found its place in the creaking timbers and rustling sail. Tonight, the ocean's isolation magnified the raw intensity of an inevitable confrontation. Inside the polished, warm interiors of the yacht, the tension was palpable. The spacious lounge, adorned with deep mahogany panels and soft, dim lighting, was starkly contrasted by the turmoil that had built up over years of family manipulation and deceit. Eleanor, who had long borne the weight of traumatic secrets and business betrayals, stood in the center. Her eyes, usually so composed, shimmered with unshed tears as she listened to the revelation that had rocked the foundations of her carefully constructed world. Across from her, seated in an ornate leather chair, was Vincent, the man who had once been her trusted confidant and then her enemy. His expression was one of remorse mixed with defiance, each line on his face a testament to the internal war waging inside him. Vincent's voice trembled slightly as he began to recount the manipulative tactics that had turned their family business into a playground of treachery. He spoke of behind-the-scenes deals, secret alliances, and the collateral damage of a past that neither could escape. Each word cascaded over Eleanor like the relentless, pounding surf outside, echoing her own turbulent emotions. The yacht, isolated amid the endless, merciless sea, provided little recourse for escape. Its luxurious compartments, normally symbols of opulence and success, now seemed to close in, amplifying the claustrophobia of unresolved guilt and anger. As words of betrayal filled the space between them, Eleanor fought to maintain her composure. Yet the raw pain of discovering that her own family had woven a web of deceit was too much to keep at bay. Amid the verbal onslaught, there was a sudden shift in the atmosphere when the yacht's cabin door swung open. In stepped Daniel, the rival's ex-husband, whose presence had long been a ghost in the background of these family conflicts. His entry was neither dramatic nor expected, but his eyes held sorrow and a conflicted loyalty that immediately deepened the charged ambience. Daniel's own tale of suffering and compromise was woven with the threads of regret and redemption. In a voice that was quiet yet laden with significance, he revealed his inner turmoil, how he had once been coerced into decisions that, in hindsight, had torn his loyalties to shreds. His confession hit Eleanor like a tidal wave, adding layers of complexity to an already intricate emotional tapestry. The room's charged silence was as heavy as the impending storm outside. Eleanor's heart pounded with the recognition of shared pain, recognition that she was not the only one imprisoned by the ceaseless ripple of past mistakes. Vincent's eyes met hers with an intensity that bordered on pleading, as if he too longed for redemption and a way to mend what had been broken. As Daniel's words hung in the air, Eleanor felt the dissolved boundaries between betrayal, loyalty, and love. The electric climax of truth and heartache demanded an answer, a brave confrontation of not just ancient wrongs, but of the scars that had marred their souls. No longer able to restrain herself, Eleanor stepped forward. In a voice that was both soft and ferocious, she called out the years of controlled silence. "How could you?" she demanded, each syllable slicing through the charged atmosphere like a sharp gust. Her accusation was less about the betrayal itself and more a lamentation of the painful journey that had led her to this moment of reckoning. The room seemed to pause, the only sound the lapping of the waves against the hull and the quiet murmurs of regret from those who had long hid behind masks of propriety. Vincent's posture wavered under the weight of his own admissions. His next words, a mixture of sorrow and a desperate need for forgiveness, reverberated in the confined space between them. "I never meant to destroy what we had. I was trapped in the very same game, a game that only left scars in its wake." His voice, almost lost among the low hum of the yacht's engines, was the confession of a man who recognized his own failings. It was then that the collision of past and present manifested, not simply through bitter words, but through emotions that surged between them like uncontrolled currents. In a moment caught between time and tide, the heated exchange escalated into a fervent mix of anger, regret, and longing. Eleanor, overwhelmed by the impossible convergence of betrayal and empathy, felt a powerful urge to reclaim the love and trust that had been so violently fractured. In a defiant act of liberation, she stepped forward until there was no space left between her and Vincent, only the undeniable magnetism of shared sorrow and passion. Their eyes locked, and in that suspended moment, the echo of past and present became irrelevant compared to the undeniable truth of their connection. The storm outside mirrored the storm within as Vincent gently reached for Eleanor, their hands trembling together, as if weathered by the same relentless tempests. In a slow, deliberate movement, the space between them dissolved into a kiss that was as fierce as it was apologetic, a merging of hearts seeking to bridge the chasm of years lost to mistrust. It was a kiss not merely for passion, but for absolution, a silent acknowledgement that true love sometimes blooms amid the ruins of shattered expectations. The vibrations of the yacht's engine softened as if paying tribute to the raw moment of vulnerability. Outside, lightning briefly illuminated Daniel's face, his expression a blend of regret and revelation as he recognized the parallel redemption unfolding before him. His own conflicted loyalties had long remained a quiet subplot in the saga of family deceit, but in that brief, charged moment, his heart beckoned toward honesty. While he had once been an accessory to secrets, Daniel now stood, silently witnessing the transformation of pain into passion, a promise of renewal that hinted at a future of healing, even if it was written amid the turbulence of the present. As the kiss finally subsided, a heavy silence enveloped the trio. Words were unnecessary in the wake of such undeniable, raw emotion. There was an unspoken agreement within the intimate circle, a commitment to face the consequences of their actions head-on while recognizing that the path to healing was paved with vulnerability. The confrontation had opened a gateway to transformation. Eleanor, though still bearing fresh wounds of betrayal, now saw the distant light of understanding. She realized that while the scars of the past would not vanish overnight, there was strength to be found in acknowledging pain and embracing the courage that came with forgiveness. The yacht continued to cut through tumultuous seas, a solitary beacon adrift in an endless night. Yet, amid the uncertainty of crashing waves and hidden depths, a transformative energy now coursed through its corridors. Bonds that had been forged in blood and betrayal were slowly giving way to a future where raw honesty and enduring passion could stand against the tide of old ghosts. In that charged moment of embrace and revelation, each heart made a tacit promise to venture forward toward renewal, even if the journey was as unpredictable and dangerous as the vast, open sea. Chapter 4. Harbor of Truth and Renewal. Elena stood at the edge of the wharf as twilight descended, the cool salt air mingling with a sense of liberation that she had never known before. For so long, the weight of deceit and the painful legacy of family secrets, betrayals in both boardroom and bloodline, had threatened to swallow her. Now, as the last rays of the sun danced on rippling water, she felt the first stirring of renewal. This was the moment when truth anchored her spirit and a new future beckoned. The final confrontation had been unexpected yet inevitable. In a hushed, impromptu meeting with her estranged uncle and the few remaining loyalists from the business, a meeting held in a discreet, renovated library that once bore witness to silent family gatherings, Elena had revealed the whole truth. For years, manipulation and unspoken expectations had held her captive, rendering her subservient in both her family's intricate web and the company that had once promised her a secure place in the world. As she calmly confronted the past, explaining every deception with measured words and a firmness that surprised even herself, she watched as the tension slowly gave way to a reluctant understanding. The family's long-hidden secrets, like dusty tomes on a forgotten shelf, were now placed in plain sight. With one final glance, she acknowledged that every scar was a lesson, and every betrayal a stepping stone on the path toward self-mastery. Later that night, Elena found herself alone in the quiet sanctuary of her modest apartment. The remnants of the day's upheavals still vibrated in the air. There was an undeniable fatigue, but also relief, a feeling of having once more claimed control over her destiny. With each deliberate breath, she began to dismantle the constraints that had defined her existence for so long. Instead of allowing past traumas to dictate the contours of her future, she embraced the possibility of change and personal empowerment. A newfound clarity illuminated not just her surroundings, but the inner landscape of her thoughts. Every harsh word from hostile colleagues, and every veiled threat from family now bled together into one undeniable truth. She was done being a pawn in someone else's game. In the midst of this inner reawakening, a soft knock came at the door. Marcus, whose unwavering warmth had provided solace throughout her painful journey, entered with a gentle smile and eyes that gleamed with quiet determination. His presence was a testament to the fact that even in the aftermath of betrayal, love could prosper where honesty ruled. They settled in the living room, seated in a way that invited conversation without pretense. The soft glow of a single lamp cast an intimate light, as though emphasizing the gravity of the moment. "I always believed there was more to you than they ever acknowledged," Marcus said, his voice a blend of respect and concern. "Watching you reclaim your truth has not only strengthened you, but it also reaffirms my belief in us." Elena met his gaze, her eyes reflecting both the vulnerability of the past and the promise of the future. "I've spent so many years questioning my worth, trapped by expectations that weren't mine to bear. I let their doubts shape me, but tonight I finally see that setting boundaries isn't a loss, it's a beginning. I'm not the same person I once was, and I'm not willing to be manipulated again, be it by family or by those who once cloaked their greed in the guise of friendship." Her words fell into the charged silence that followed, each syllable resonating with the certainty of someone who had weathered an emotional storm. Marcus reached out, his hand gently covering hers in a silent vow of solidarity. "We'll navigate these turbulent waters together," he murmured. "I'm here fully present. We'll build a harbor of truth, where neither of us is ever alone again." That conversation, raw and fearless, became a promise, an admission of mutual respect that would shape the days to come. Their commitment was not simply born of passion. It was rooted in shared experience, and the kind of healing that only emerges from mutual vulnerability. In that quiet living room, every fear of repeating past mistakes dissolved into the determination to protect what was emerging as a sanctuary from the chaos of their former lives. As dawn crept in the next morning, Elena and Marcus took a walk along the docks. The horizon glowed with potential, and each step forward was infused with the hope of starting anew. They discussed plans to restructure her involvement in the business, transforming the organization into one that prioritized integrity over profit, transparency over control. With every plan they set, they dismantled the remnants of manipulation and replaced them with commitments to accountability. Their dialogue was animated yet sincere, no longer a mere exchange of ideas, but a collective blueprint for a future built on mutual trust and responsibility. "You don't have to shoulder everything on your own anymore," Marcus reassured her as they paused to listen to the distant clamor of early morning fishermen. "Let's draft a new chapter, one written with open hearts and shared goals." Elena felt the sincerity in his words. Once, the fear of rejection and the sting of betrayal had kept her isolated. Now, the clarity of her newfound self was complemented by the steadfast support of someone who recognized her true value. This was not a fairy tale of simple resolution. It was the beginning of a partnership fortified by hard-won lessons and the courage to challenge long-held loyalties. With firm resolve, Elena agreed. The old narratives would be archived, and a fresh, honest account of life would take center stage. It wasn't long before they began making tangible changes. Elena reformed the board of directors, introducing policies that celebrated ethical practices and individual empowerment. In doing so, she extricated herself from the legacy of deceit that had once threatened her every decision. Alongside Marcus, she established a council, a small but dedicated team committed to guiding the company's future with uncompromising integrity. The council was more than a professional commitment. It was a tribute to every lesson learned from the betrayals that had preceded them. With every meeting and every new strategy, the toxic influences of the past were steadily replaced by a culture of openness and collaboration. As the sea softly lapped at the docks that evening, Elena and Marcus sat together on an old bench, the scars of yesterday finally giving way to the promise of tomorrow. Their reflections carried the wisdom of hardship, but also the hopeful cadence of renewal, a mutual determination to nurture a space where truth and trust would define every interaction. In that harbor, they found not only refuge, but a launching pad for dreams that had long been overshadowed by deceit. The events of the past few days had crystallized the realization that healing was not instantaneous. It was a journey marked by small, deliberate choices and reaffirmations of self-worth with every shared smile, every tear shed in honest conversation. Elena, once so battered by manipulation, now embraced a future where her decisions were solely her own, unburdened by external expectations. In the soft embrace of the night's gentle rhythm, both knew that while the scars might persist, they would never again curb their stride toward a future defined by transparency and genuine commitment. Together, they promised to guard their harbor, a safe, unyielding space where truth and renewal reigned, nurturing every hope that their joined lives would bring forth. As the first stars appeared overhead, the silence was filled with an unspoken vow. No matter the challenges that might arise, Elena and Marcus had found in each other the courage and clarity to embrace a love that would stand as a testament